AITA for kicking my girlfriend out after she ground on 3 men in a club? There comes a moment when you stop loving the idea you had of someone and start seeing them for who they truly are. That moment doesn't make a sound, it's silent. And it was precisely in that silence that I made the decision that changed the course of our story. Deep down, I think I always knew I was the safe option for Brielle. I was the guy who paid the rent for our 1-bedroom apartment in the city. The one who made sure her car insurance was always current, who cooked dinner when she came home tired, who listened for hours to her complaints about her dead-end marketing job, without ever complaining myself. I was stable, reliable, and according to Brielle, a sweetheart. But in the modern world of relationships, sweetheart is often a polite way of saying boring. Brielle was 24, 5 years younger than me, and terrified of missing out on her life. She had a frenetic energy, a constant need to be seen, validated, and desired by strangers. She lived her life through Instagram stories and TikTok trends. When we were alone in the apartment, everything was perfect. She was affectionate, funny, and composed. But the moment we stepped out in public or she joined her single friends, she completely changed. She became a performer, and I was just an accessory, someone she dragged along to hold her purse while she shined. The tension had been building for months. At first, it was little things. She would post suggestive photos on social media, swimsuit pictures I'd never seen with captions about being untamable. When I brought it up, she would roll her eyes. "It's just for the algorithm, Carter. You're so insecure. It's not like I'm doing anything with the guys in my DMs." I let it slide. I wanted to be the cool, understanding boyfriend. I didn't want to be the older, controlling guy who stifled her youth. I swallowed my gut feeling that screamed a woman in a serious relationship shouldn't be seeking the attention of hundreds of unknown men. Then Jasmine arrived. Jasmine was Brielle's best friend from college, recently single after being dumped by some finance bro and determined to live her single girl summer in the middle of October. Jasmine was toxic, one of those miserable people who need everyone around them to be miserable too, just so they don't feel alone in their own chaos. "You have to come with us tonight," Brielle said, standing in the bathroom doorway while I was shaving. It was Friday. I had just finished a 60-hour work week at the logistics company I managed. All I wanted was to order takeout and watch a movie. "Babe, I'm exhausted," I replied, rinsing my razor. "Can you and Jasmine just go by yourselves? I trust you." "No, you have to come," she insisted, putting on her abandoned puppy face. "Jasmine says you never go out anymore. She thinks you're controlling me, keeping me cooped up at home. Plus, it's a new club downtown. VIP access, please. Just for a few hours. I want to show you off." It was that last phrase that got me. Show me off. Or at least, that's what she said. I sighed, looking at my tired reflection in the mirror. I really did love her. And I convinced myself that maybe I was becoming a hermit, that maybe I should make an effort to be part of her world. "Okay," I said. "But I'm driving, and we're not staying until 4 a.m. She let out a little squeal, hugged me tight, and ran off to get ready. She spent 2 hours on her hair and makeup. She put on a dress that was less a piece of clothing than a suggestion, tight, black, with a dangerously deep neckline. Objectively, she looked stunning. But as we walked to the car, I noticed her already frantically texting Jasmine with a little smile I couldn't quite decipher. I didn't know it yet, but I was driving straight to my own execution. The club was called Verdict, which today seems ironic. It was exactly the kind of place I hated. Subterranean, reeking of expensive perfume mixed with cheap desperation, with a bass so loud it vibrated your teeth. The air was heavy, thick with smoke and sweat. The instant we passed the bouncer and entered the main room, Brielle transformed. It was immediate. She let go of my hand. Her posture changed from relaxed to arched and calculated. She wasn't walking anymore. She was prowling. We found Jasmine and 2 other girls I didn't know near the bar. Jasmine looked me up and down with a disdain barely concealed behind a smirk. Well, look who's finally off his leash," she shouted over the music. "Hey," I replied with a forced smile. "Good to see you too, Jazz." Brielle didn't defend me. She just grabbed a shot of tequila from the tray Jasmine was holding, downed it in one go, and yelled, "Who?" before pulling her friends toward the dance floor. "Are you coming?" she asked, but she was already walking away. She didn't wait for an answer. I followed them, feeling like a mandatory date at a high school prom. I stood at the edge of their circle, beer in hand, watching them dance. At first, it was fine. They danced with each other, laughing, taking flash selfies. I even started to relax a little, nodding my head to the beat, trying to look like I was having fun. Then the dynamic shifted. A group of guys, probably in their early 20s with trendy haircuts and oversized streetwear, started to close in. It was like sharks sensing blood. Normally, this is the moment a girlfriend gives a signal that she's taken. A glance my way, a hand on my arm, a subtle step back. Brielle did none of these things. When a guy with bleached hair and a full-sleeve tattoo approached, she didn't back away. She smiled, flipped her hair to the side, turned her back to him, and started to grind. My body froze. I took a sip of beer, tasting only the bitter bile. She's just dancing, I told myself. Don't be the jealous boyfriend. Don't be the guy Jasmine says you are. But then his hands landed on her waist. I remained paralyzed, watching this stranger's hands settle on the waist of the woman I was planning to propose to next year. And she didn't push them away. On the contrary, she leaned back, pressing her body against his, grinding to the rhythm of the deep bass. He leaned in and whispered something in her ear, and Brielle threw her head back with a loud, exaggerated laugh. I knew it was fake, manufactured purely to stroke his ego. I set my beer down on a nearby table. My heart wasn't racing. Surprisingly, my pulse had slowed. A cold, numbing clarity washed over me. I pushed my way onto the dance floor. I tapped Brielle's shoulder. She turned around, visibly annoyed that her performance had been interrupted. Her eyes were glassy, her pupils dilated. "What?" she mouthed. "Can we talk?" I yelled over the music, pointing to a quieter corner near the bar. She huffed, rolled her eyes at the guy she was grinding on as if to say, "Can you believe this guy?" and followed me. When we reached the side of the dance floor, I turned to her. I tried to keep my voice steady. "Brielle, you're grinding on that guy. He had his hands all over you. That's not right. I'm standing right here." She looked at me with a truly shocking level of condescension. She crossed her arms, pushing out her chest, and kept glancing around to see if anyone was watching our argument. "Oh my God, Carter," she said, her voice dripping with annoyance. "It's just dancing. It's a club. This is what people do here. Why do you have to make everything so weird?" "I'm not making anything weird," I replied, lowering my voice. "I'm asking for some respect for our relationship. You're grinding on a total stranger while your boyfriend is watching. In what world is that normal?" She stepped forward, getting in my face. I could smell the tequila on her breath. "You're making a mountain out of a molehill. It's harmless fun. I'm allowed to have fun, Carter. I'm not a nun. You're embarrassing me in front of my friends. This is just your insecurity because you don't know how to loosen up." "Insecurity?" I asked, a dark amusement rising inside me. "Yes, you're suffocating me," she snapped, throwing her hands up. "And if you can't handle me dancing, then just stand in your corner and wait until I'm done. Or go home. I don't care. But stop ruining my night." I looked at her, really looked at her. I saw her smudged eyeliner. I saw the desperate need for validation in her eyes. I saw how she kept looking over my shoulder toward the dance floor, worried the guy with the bleached hair would lose interest if she was gone too long. And in that second, I understood. She didn't love me. She loved the security I provided. She loved the apartment. She loved the paid bills. But she didn't respect me. And without respect, loyalty is just a countdown until something better comes along. "Okay," I said. She blinked, surprised by my sudden surrender. "Okay, you're right," I continued calmly. "I'm making a big deal. Go on, have fun. Dance with whoever you want." A smug smile spread across her face. She thought she'd won. She thought she'd put me back in my place, just like she always did. She thought I would go buy another drink and wait meekly in my corner like a good little puppy. "Thank you," she said, patting my face condescendingly. "Just relax, babe. I'll come find you later." She immediately turned and sashayed back to the dance floor. I watched. I saw her go straight for the bleached hair guy. I saw her grab the lapel of his shirt. I saw her start grinding on him with even more intensity than before, glancing back at me for a split second, just to make sure I was watching. She was punishing me, showing me she could do whatever she wanted and that I would silently accept it. Soon, she started circulating between 3 different guys from the group, laughing, touching their arms, letting them spin her around. She was in her element. She looked free. I checked the time. It was 11:45 p.m. I didn't feel angry anymore. The anger had evaporated, replaced by the cold efficiency I used at work when a contract was breached. I turned my back on her. I walked to the bar, settled my tab, and left a $20 tip for the bartender. I walked out the front door and felt the cool night air on my face. I opened the Uber app. I didn't send a text. I didn't say goodbye. I simply ceased to exist in her world. I had a busy night ahead of me. Packing up an entire apartment takes time, and I wanted to finish everything before the alcohol wore off. The Uber ride home was silent. I sat in the back seat, watching the city lights blur past the window. The driver asked if I'd had a good night. Yes, I replied. An enlightening one. The first thing I did when I got home was pick up my phone. I opened the location sharing app we used for safety. I swiped over Brielle's face and pressed stop sharing. A small pop-up asked if I was sure. I had never been more sure of anything in my life. When I unlocked the apartment door, the silence hit me. Usually, the silence of an empty apartment made me feel lonely. It was a reminder of the hours spent waiting for her. That night, it was different. It felt peaceful. It felt like I was reclaiming territory that had been occupied by enemy forces. I didn't sit down. I didn't cry. I didn't pace around wondering if I was making a mistake. The adrenaline from the betrayal was still coursing through my veins, turning emotion into a to-do list. I went to the kitchen and grabbed a box of heavy-duty black trash bags. I started with the bathroom. Her toothbrush, the multitude of creams, the flat iron she always forgot to unplug. I threw everything into the bag with clinical detachment. I wasn't breaking anything. I was simply relocating objects. I went to the bedroom. I opened her side of the closet. I pulled clothes off hangers in armfuls. Dresses, coats, the jeans she was wearing when she'd called me boring. The lingerie she had bought, but never worn for me. Everything went into the bags. Her shoes went into a separate box I found in the storage closet. I stripped the sheets from the bed. She had slept in them. I didn't want them anymore. I tossed everything into the laundry hamper. I'd buy new ones tomorrow. Egyptian cotton, the good stuff. She'd said it was a waste of money. At 12:30 a.m., I Googled 24-hour locksmith. I found one with 4.8 stars who promised to be there in 20 minutes for a late-night emergency fee. Is this an eviction case? The dispatcher on the phone asked. No, I replied, looking at the growing pile of black bags in the hallway. This is an exit. The locksmith arrived at 1 a.m. He was a big guy named Salvatore who looked at the bags in the hallway, then at me. He didn't ask any questions, just gave a nod, a silent acknowledgement of a universal male experience. You want the cylinder changed too? Salvatore asked, pulling a drill from his tool belt. Yes, I said. I want a key that has never existed before tonight. While he drilled out the lock tumblers, a strangely comforting sound, like a dentist pulling a rotten tooth, I finished packing everything else. I carried her belongings down to the building's entryway. It was a secure building, so nothing would get stolen, but it would be undeniably humiliating. A mountain of black trash bags, 3 cardboard boxes, and a yoga mat propped against the wall. I went back upstairs and grabbed a piece of paper and a thick marker. I thought about writing a long letter, explaining everything, listing every time she had put me down, every comparison to her friends' exciting boyfriends. But that would imply she deserved an explanation. It would imply this was a negotiation. I wrote only 2 sentences. Dance with whoever you want, but not in my apartment. I taped the note to the largest bag, right at eye level. When Salvatore was done, I paid him $300. He handed me 2 new, shiny keys. They felt heavy in my hand. They felt like ownership. Good luck, brother, Salvatore said, packing up his tools. Thanks. I think my luck just turned. I locked the door from the inside, slid the security chain across, and poured myself a glass of whiskey. I sat in the living room for 10 minutes, savoring the absolute silence. No drama, no drunken texts, no waiting. I went to bed at 2 a.m. and passed out immediately. I woke up at 10:30 a.m., naturally, without an alarm. The sun was filtering through the blinds in a way I hadn't appreciated in months. I made coffee and scrambled some eggs. I ate my breakfast at the table, listening to a podcast, completely unconcerned that my ex-girlfriend was, at that very moment, homeless. At 11:15 a.m., the show began. I heard the ding of the elevator in the hall, then heavy footsteps. Then, silence, the pause where I knew she was staring at the pile of bags. Then, the clack of a key in the lock. Scrape, jiggle, push. It didn't turn. Scrape, Jiggle, jiggle. What the hell? I heard her mutter from the other side. Then came the knocking. A fist hammering on the door. Carter, Carter, are you in there? The key isn't working. Open the door. I took a slow sip of coffee, walked to the door, and unlocked it. I opened it a few inches, letting the security chain go taut. Brielle stood there, under the cold hallway light. She was a disaster. Her mascara was smeared down her face. Her hair was a tangled nest. She was still wearing the black dress from the night before, which in the light of day looked cheap and wrinkled. She smelled of stale alcohol and regret. She stared at me through the crack, her eyes wide with a mix of confusion and panic. Then she gestured desperately at the bags behind her. Carter, what is this? Why is my stuff in trash bags? Is this a joke? I looked her up and down, my expression completely neutral. It's not a joke, Brielle. It's a move out. A move out. She let out a hysterical, disbelieving laugh. Are you serious? You locked me out. I've been calling you all morning. I woke up at Jasmine's, panicking because you just disappeared. I didn't disappear, I said calmly. I left. There's a difference. But you left me at the club, she screamed, her voice cracking. Who does that? You abandoned me. You weren't abandoned, I corrected her. You were busy. From what I saw, you were in the very good company of 3 different guys. I didn't want to interrupt your fun. You said I was making a big deal, remember? Her face turned scarlet. She tried to push the door open, but the security chain held firm. Carter, let me in. I need to take a shower. Let's talk about this inside. No, I said. We can't. She stared at me, the reality of the situation beginning to sink in. She looked back at the note taped to the bag, this time reading it carefully. Her eyes started to well up with the calculated tears she always used to get what she wanted. Babe, please, she whimpered, softening her voice. I was just drunk. It didn't mean anything. I was just dancing. You know I love you. Why are you doing this over one stupid night? It wasn't one night, I replied. It was a lack of respect. You looked me in the eye and told me I was embarrassing you. Then you turned your back on me to grind on another man. You made a choice, Brielle. You chose the attention of strangers over my respect. I'm sorry, she cried, wiping her nose. I'm sorry, okay? I won't do it again. Just let me in. All my stuff is out here. The neighbors are going to see. They probably already have, I said. And you're right. All your stuff is out here. I double-checked. Even the phone charger you left by the couch. Where am I supposed to go? She shrieked, the sadness instantly turning to rage. I have nowhere to go. My parents are in Florida. Jasmine's couch is tiny. You can't just kick me out. I live here. You lived here, I replied, using the past tense deliberately. You lived here when you were my girlfriend. But my girlfriend wouldn't treat me like a backup plan at a club. So you must not be her. You're an asshole, she spat, hitting the side of the door with her hand. All this over a dance. You're an insecure, controlling, pathetic man. Those guys last night were right about you. There it was. The mask was off. I smiled. It was not a kind smile. If they were so right and are so great, why don't you ask one of them for a place to stay? You seemed pretty comfortable with them last night. Maybe the guy with the neck tattoo has a spare room. Her mouth fell open. For the first time, she had no comeback. Goodbye, Brielle. Carter, wait. I closed the door. I turned the deadbolt. I stood there listening for a moment. I heard her kick the door once. Then the sound of a body sliding down the wall, sobbing into the hallway's silence. I went back to the kitchen, poured myself another cup of coffee, and sat down at the table again. The eggs were still warm, and for the first time in 2 years, I didn't have to wonder if I was enough. I knew I was. She was just no longer welcome to prove it. The fallout was immediate, but not in the way Brielle expected. I later learned she spent nearly an hour hauling her own trash bags down to the lobby, crying loudly in the hopes that a neighbor would intervene and shame me into opening the door. No one did. The doorman, a guy named Hector whom I always tipped well at Christmas, apparently watched the whole thing with detached sympathy, held the door for her, and wished her a good day. She ended up crashing at Jasmine's, of course. That same night, the smear campaign began. I was sitting on the couch reading a book, enjoying the absolute silence, when my phone started buzzing. It was an Instagram notification. Brielle had blocked me, but she hadn't blocked my brother or our mutual friends. She had posted a picture of herself, eyes red and mascara running, looking like the victim of a natural disaster. The caption read, thrown out like trash by the person who said he loved me. Narcissists always show their true colors eventually. Heartbroken, but I will rise again. Survivor Toxisex. I felt a slight sting, but didn't comment. I didn't send messages defending myself. I knew that in the court of public opinion, silence is often seen as guilt. But I also knew that arguing with unstable people only makes you look unstable too. The next day, the narrative started to crack. One of our mutual friends, Devin, sent me a message. Devin had been at the club that night, slightly apart from the group. Saw her post. Heavy stuff, man. But honestly, I saw what she was doing at Verdict. I'm surprised you lasted as long as you did before leaving. You okay? Then a video surfaced. One of Jasmine's friends had posted a story from that night at the club, tagging Brielle. It was still online. I watched it using an alternate account. The video showed Brielle on the dance floor, not just dancing, but practically draped over some guy I didn't know. She was whispering in his ear, her hand on the back of his neck, laughing in a way she hadn't laughed with me in years. I took a screenshot for good measure, but I never had to use it. The karma that hit Brielle wasn't a great cosmic lightning bolt. It was the slow, grinding reality of adult life without a safety net. Through the grapevine, I heard that living with Jasmine was a nightmare. Jasmine was fun for going out, but as a roommate, she was a disaster. The apartment was a mess of dirty dishes and cat hair. There was no one to cook, no one to pay for the Uber Eats, no one to fix the internet when it went down. Brielle's freedom came at a high price. Without my income covering rent and bills, she started to drown. She had a mid-level marketing job that barely covered her credit card minimums, let alone rent in the city. She tried leaning on the guys from the club, the same ones she claimed were so much more fun than me. She went on a lot of dates. A lot. But the bad boys she fetishized treated her exactly like bad boys treat desperate women. They had a casual interest in her and then ghosted her, or they asked to split the check at Applebee's. The bleached hair guy from that fateful night? From what I heard, he blocked her number after Brielle asked if she could crash at his place for a few days. She wasn't a high-value woman in their eyes. She was just a girl with too much baggage and no apartment. Meanwhile, I was thriving. It's amazing how much money and energy you save when you stop trying to fill a leaky bucket. I got a promotion at work. I started going to the gym at 6 a.m. because I wasn't staying up late arguing anymore. I reconnected with old friends I drifted away from because Brielle didn't like them. I was happy, and I think that's what hurt her the most. 6 weeks had passed since the lock change. I was leaving the gym on a Tuesday evening, feeling that good, post-workout soreness. Carter. I stopped. I recognized the voice, but it sounded weaker than I remembered. Brielle was leaning against my car. She looked smaller. That's the only word for it. Her frenetic energy was gone. She was wearing jeans and a hoodie, comfortable but worn-out clothes. She looked tired. Her roots were showing, and she wore no makeup. She looked like the girl I'd fallen in love with 3 years ago, before the social media obsession took over. For a second, I felt that phantom pain in my chest, the impulse to ask if she was okay, to offer help. Then I remembered that guy's hands on her waist. The switch stayed off. I pulled out my earbuds. Brielle, you're blocking my car door. I just wanted to talk, she said, her voice trembling slightly. She wasn't aggressive. This was not the girl banging on the door, screaming about her rights. This was someone who had realized she'd made a catastrophic mistake. We have nothing to talk about, I replied, pressing the unlock button on my key fob. The car lights flashed, illuminating her face. Please, Carter. Just 5 minutes. She stepped closer, invading my personal space. I miss you. I miss us. Living with Jasmine is a nightmare. I hate it. I hate my life right now. That sounds tough, I said, my tone neutral. But it's not my problem. How can you say that? The tears started to flow. We were together for 3 years. You can't just throw all that away because I made one mistake. I was drunk. I was stupid. I haven't had a drink since that night, I swear. She reached out and touched my arm. Her hand was cold. I realized something, Carter. None of those guys can hold a candle to you. They're boys. You're a man. You took care of me. I took that for granted, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I want to come home. I looked down at her hand on my arm. I didn't shake it off. I just took a step back, letting her hand fall into the empty space between us. You don't miss me, Brielle, I said. You miss the apartment. You miss the stability. You regret losing someone to clean up your messes. That's not true. I love you. No, I said, shaking my head. If you loved me, you wouldn't have humiliated me to impress a bunch of strangers. You called me dramatic because I asked for basic respect. You said I was embarrassing you. I looked her right in the eye. I wanted her to hear this. I saw you that night, Brielle. I saw who you really are when you think there are no consequences. You offered yourself up to every man in that room. You put yourself on display like a product on sale. She flinched as if I'd slapped her. I was just. And that's the whole problem. I interrupted, my voice quiet and final. I don't buy products that offer free samples to everyone. I'm not interested in the clearance rack. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. The brutality of the rejection, delivered not with anger, but with self-respect, left her in shock. You wanted the exciting life? I said, opening my car door. You wanted the clubs. You wanted the guys who don't play it safe. Well, now you have it. You got exactly what you asked for. Carter, please, she whispered, her voice broken and desperate. I have no one. I got into the car and looked at her one last time through the open window. You have yourself, I said. That's who you always wanted to focus on anyway. I closed the door. I started the engine. I didn't look in the rearview mirror as I drove away. I didn't need to see her standing alone in that parking lot to know she was crying. I turned the music up. I had a steak waiting for me in the fridge and a quiet, empty apartment to cook it in. It was going to be a great night. Comment. After a story like this, I think it is important to reflect on what really matters. Setting boundaries is not an act of aggression, but an act of profound self-respect. You have the right to define how you are treated and to protect your own peace. Remember that choosing yourself does not make you a bad person. It makes you a responsible one. Your inner peace is one of your most valuable assets, and it is worth defending. True healing often begins the moment you decide you deserve a safe and stable environment. Sometimes, the greatest act of kindness you can perform is the one you do for your future self, making a difficult decision today. Walking away from a situation that consistently undermines your worth is not failure, but a powerful step toward wholeness. I hope this reminds you to honor your own story and to always choose what brings you closer to peace. Take care of yourself out there. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.